Which dashing Brit led the nation through World War II?
Winston Churchill. What was the top secret operation name for the 1944 Normandy invasion? Operation Overlord. Which enchantress starred in the 1942 classic Casablanca? Ingrid Bergman. What 1947 event split British India into two nations? Partition of India. Who became president after FDR's passing in 1945? Harry S. Truman. Which dictator steered the dark course of the Nazi regime? Adolf Hitler. What peacekeeping club was born in 1945 to unite nations? The United Nations.
What was the first general-purpose electronic computer built during World War II?
ENIAC. What 1945 snapshot captured Marines hoisting a flag on Mount Suribachi? Raising the flag on Iwo Jima. Which caped crusader, debuted in 1938, became a 1940s superstar? Superman. Which classic film won Best Picture in 1942?
How Green Was My Valley?
What post-war legal showdown put Nazi officials on trial? Nuremberg trials. Which 1947 policies were designed to stop the spread of communism? The Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan.
What date, which will live in infamy, brought the U.S. into World War II in 1941?
December 7th, 1941. Which legendary animator introduced the world to Bugs Bunny's official debut in 1940? Tex Avery.
What 1941 cinematic masterpiece about a newspaper tycoon is often called the greatest movie ever?
Citizen Kane. Which trailblazer broke the baseball color barrier in 1947? Jackie Robinson. What was the name of the top secret project that developed the atomic bomb? The Manhattan Project. Which iconic tough girl poster became a symbol of female factory workers during the war? We Can Do It. What stretchy metal toy was accidentally invented by a naval engineer in 1943? The Slinky. Which fashion item, named after a nuclear test site, shocked the world in 1946? The bikini. What life-saving miracle drug saw its first mass production during the 1940s? Penicillin. Which classic Christmas movie starring Jimmy Stewart premiered in 1946? It's a Wonderful Life. In 1947, a mysterious flying disc reportedly crashed in which New Mexico town? Roswell. Who was the big band leader and trombonist who went missing over the English Channel in 1944? Glenn Miller. What 1948 international effort flew supplies into a blockaded German city? The Berlin Airlift. Which famous diary, written by a young girl in hiding, was published in 1947? The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. What was the name of the first supersonic aircraft flown by Chuck Yeager in 1947? Bell X-1. Which board game, originally titled Lexico, was trademarked as Scrabble in 1948? Scrabble. What military vehicle, built by Willys Overland, became a civilian icon after the war? The Jeep. Which 1949 George Orwell novel introduced the world to Big Brother? (1984). What kitchen staple, invented by Earl Tupper in 1946, revolutionized food storage? Tupperware. Who was the Dutch artist whose Distill movement ended with his death in 1944? Piet Mondrian. What 1945 conference saw Churchill, Stalin, and FDR plan the post-war world? The Yalta Conference. Which king of rock and roll was just a teenager in Memphis during the late 40s? Elvis Presley. In 1940, which famous cave paintings were discovered by 4 teenagers in France? Lascaux cave paintings. What 1947 adventure saw Thor Heyerdahl sail a balsa wood raft across the Pacific? The Kon-Tiki expedition. Which defense alliance was formed in 1949 to counter the Soviet Union? NATO.
What was the name of the first instant camera demonstrated by Edwin Land in 1947?
Polaroid. Which 1940 Disney film featured The Sorcerer's Apprentice? Fantasia. Who was the Japanese emperor who announced the nation's surrender in 1945? Hirohito. What 1944 act provided veterans with funds for college and housing? The GI Bill. Which desert city saw the opening of the Flamingo Hotel in 1946, starting its modern era? Las Vegas. What 1947 independence leader was known as the Father of India? Mahatma Gandhi. Which 1940s jazz style, led by Charlie Parker, featured fast tempos and improvisation? Bebop. What massive 1948 Jewish state declaration sparked immediate regional conflict? The State of Israel. Which 1940 book by Dr. Seuss taught us that an elephant is faithful 100%? Horton hatches the egg. Who was the former Soviet leader and founder of the Red Army assassinated in Mexico in 1940? Leon Trotsky.
In 1942, what was the first American offensive in the Pacific called?
Battle of Guadalcanal. Which U.S. president was the first and only to be elected for a 4th term in 1944? Franklin D. Roosevelt.